Ray McGovern. So he's a badass, actually. I think he was 27 years in the CIA, and then when he found out that the CIA, in 2006, you had these disclosures about the CIA torture, he gave back his commendation medallion in protest about the torture program. And then he went and he gave Donald Rumsfeld shit in public, right? Like, not literally, but figuratively, about Iraq. So he confronted, it is a clip. Let's play it, actually. It's an amazing clip. What an amazing, it really takes balls to do that. I don't know many people who have confronted Donald Rumsfeld in public in this way.
Evening. There have been many explanations offered for why, in one of the times of the greatest political turbulence in American history, there has been comparative apathy in places that have been past venues for public protest. One answer, that the administration has been outstanding in cherry-picking not just intelligence, but also the makeup of the crowds that greet or interact with its key players. Our fifth story in the countdown, that latter component, the governmental equivalent of the cone of silence from the old TV series Get Smart, this afternoon broke down again for the second time in 6 days. First, the president's lambasting by Stephen Colbert at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and now today's vivisection of Defense Secretary Rumsfeld, with only Rumsfeld's own words as weapons at a speech in Atlanta. One of several...
So that's Ray on the left, right here.
Several interchanges with critics, in this case a former CIA analyst, lasting 4 minutes. Here it is in its entirety with fact checks.
I'm Ray McGovern, a 27-year veteran of the Central Intelligence Agency and co-founder of Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. I would like to compliment you on your observation that lies are fundamentally destructive of the trust that government needs to govern. A colleague of mine, Paul Pillar, who is the top agency analyst on the Middle East and on counterterrorism, accused you and your colleagues of an organized campaign of manipulation. Quote, I suppose by some definitions
Could you get to your question,
that'd be
please?
called a lie. Atlanta, September 27, 2002, Donald Rumsfeld said, and I quote, there is bulletproof evidence of links between al-Qaeda and the government of President Saddam Hussein. Was that a lie, Mr. Rumsfeld, or was that manufactured somewhere else? Because all of my CIA colleagues disputed that, and so did the 9/11 Commission. And so I would like to ask you to be upfront with the American people. Why did you lie to get us into a war that was not necessary and that has caused these kinds of casualties? Why?
Well, first of all, I haven't lied. I did not lie then. Colin Powell didn't lie. He spent weeks and weeks with the Central Intelligence Agency people and prepared a presentation that I know he believed was accurate. And he presented that to the United Nations. The president spent weeks and weeks with the Central Intelligence people. And he went to the American people and made a presentation. I'm not in the intelligence business. They gave the world their honest opinion. It appears that there were not weapons of mass destruction there.
You said you knew where they were.
I did not. I said I knew where suspect sites were, and we were just...
You said you knew where they were, near Tikrit, near Baghdad, and northeast, south, and west of there. Those are your words.
My words were that... No, wait a minute, let him stay 1 second. Just a second.
Just a second, indeed. Rumsfeld's words about WMD, March 30th, 2003, on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, were, quote, we know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat.
Honestly, I can't believe that this is MSNBC and they're doing like some actual journalism.
This is America, huh?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're getting plenty of play, sir.
I'd just like an honest answer.
I'm giving it to you.
We're talking about lies, and your allegation that there was bulletproof evidence of ties between al-Qaeda and Iraq.
Did Rumsfeld make that allegation? Indeed, he did. September 27th, 2002, to the Chamber of Commerce right there in Atlanta, quoting, "We ended up with 5 or 6 sentences that were bulletproof. We could say them, they're factual, they're exactly accurate. They demonstrate that there are, in fact, al-Qaeda in Iraq. But they're not photographs, they're not beyond a reasonable doubt." Still, Mr. Rumsfeld again had to face his own words quoted back to him. How to do that? Change the subject.
Was that a lie, or were you misled?
Zarqawi was in Baghdad during the pre-war period. That is a fact.
Zarqawi? He was in the north of Iraq in a place where Saddam Hussein had no rule. That's where he was.
He was also in Baghdad.
Yeah, when he needed to go to the hospital. Come on, these people aren't idiots. They know the story.
You are... Let me give you an example. It's easy for you to make a charge, but why do you think that the men and women in uniform every day when they came out of Kuwait and went into Iraq put on chemical weapon protective suits? Because they liked the style?
Because you sold them the fucking weapons. Donald Rumsfeld shaking hands with Saddam Hussein. He gave him the fucking chemical weapons. You think I'm joking? There you go. Here's a picture. You see that? There they are. That's him. That's Rumsfeld shaking Saddam's hand. They gave him the weapons. That's why. You know, that when I was a bit younger, and this is like around the time the Iraq War was about to start, or starting, there was now we would call that a meme, but there was a meme basically that was on the internet, and it said something like, how do you know that Saddam has WMDs? And the answer is, we kept the receipts. So, yeah, the U.S. gave Saddam Hussein chemical weapons, biological weapons to use against Iran. But in 2000, 2002, 2003, when there's the second Gulf War, there were no more chemical weapons. And Scott Ritter, who we talked about, he was one of the UN weapons inspector tasked with making sure that they were destroyed. And they were. There were no more by that time. So Rumsfeld is mixing lies with truth now, and he would know because he sold the weapons. He helped sell them, right? So back then, yeah, Saddam had chemical weapons. But he didn't have them in 2002, 2003. And he knows this shit. Oh, he's so disgusting, man. And I'm really impressed that this is MSNBC. Like, wow.
They honestly believed that there were chemical weapons. Saddam Hussein had used chemical weapons on his own people previously. He'd used them on his neighbor, the Iranians, and they believed he had those weapons. We believed he had those weapons.
That's what we call a non sequitur. It doesn't matter what the troops believe. It matters what you believe.
I think, Mr. Secretary, the debate is over. We have other questions. Courtesy to the audience.
In the aftermath of that...
So that's Ray McGovern. He's a badass, and props to him. Props to him for confronting Secretary of State, war criminal, mass murderer, Skeletor, Donald Rumsfeld. If I understood correctly, Ray was invited to teach to substitute, I think, at George Washington University, and then Hillary Clinton was there, and he turned his back to her. This is while she's Secretary of State.
Hillary Clinton has been heckled while speaking at George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Was cut off, TV satellite signals were jammed, and internet access was blocked for nearly the entire country.
So this is America.
The government
This is America. Who are you?
Well, Clinton was speaking in support of internet freedom when a heckler interrupted her. The protester was apparently trying to hold up a sign, but security forces took and dragged him out of the room. Clinton took the interruption in stride as the heckler was taken away, and she carried on with her prepared remarks. The heckler in question is former CIA analyst Ray McGovern, and he is joining us now on the line from Washington. Mr. McGovern, as always, many thanks for joining us here on Press TV. We have shown YouTube video of what happened, but give us your own account of exactly what happened during and after the speech at Hillary Clinton's.
Well, let me just start out by saying your lead-in indicates that you're relying on Fox News, which is a notoriously unreliable source. There was no heckler. I was the person there. I said not a word. I stood silently with my back to the secretary, lest she get the idea that everyone in that whole auditorium agreed with her warmongering policies. I was standing silently, and I was jumped on by a man in a regular suit and then another person in a police uniform. I still don't know who jumped me, but I was taken outside where nobody was watching. I was manhandled. I have welts and cuts and contusions and lacerations all over my body. And the important thing is that I wasn't heckling anyone. I was completely silent. And so I was taken completely by surprise, and by the time I realized what was happening to me, I had a chance to yell, "So, this is what America has become." And then I turned to the people that were throwing me out of this auditorium, and I said, "Who are you?" And the odd thing is that to this day, I don't know who they were. But luckily, there are photos on the internet. We'll be able to find out who ordered that 220-pound muscular man who manhandled me, who ordered him to do that to a peaceful person not making a sound. And the beauty of it, of course, is there were 18 video cameras and many still cameras that captured exactly what I was doing and what I was not doing. And I'll just finish up again by saying, please don't trust Fox News. There was no heckler.
Right, Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, so on Ray's website, if you go to the bottom, he says, Ray enjoys being asked to substitute teach at universities and colleges. At George Washington University, though, he quickly wore out his welcome when he stood silently with his back turned toward then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. He was seized and badly beaten directly in front of Clinton while she spoke eloquently about the need for freedom of expression in Iran. Oh, man. I think, by the way, I think today's his birthday, if I'm not mistaken. So happy birthday, Ray. He also used to prepare the president's daily brief for Reagan for like his entire term for 4 years, right? 81, 85, I think. And yeah, so like every day, president gets briefed and he was the one preparing it. Really knowledgeable guy and very courageous. You can hear how everyone else, especially when he was talking to Rumsfeld, is just clapping, like they're just clapping like sheep. He's doing nothing but quoting Rumsfeld back to himself, and the people in the crowd are just clapping for Rumsfeld because they're so brainwashed with this bullshit propaganda. I mean, so you know, when you're in a room full of crazy people, it really takes some courage to do that.